As soon as it impacts someone else within the team,
Yeah.
I think that is an immediate no-no, and that's an immediate verbal warning. And then, that's you've crossed the line here.
Yeah.
It's time to go over. It's the customer first, the company second, and you third. Early for me in my career, I said yes 40 times more than I said no. Nobody, if you don't ask, you don't get, really.
Jamie Deveaux, head of channel sales at Dropsuit. With over 15 years in tech sales and leadership, Jamie knows how to drive growth, build killer sales teams, and create strong partner channels across the Asia-Pacific region. From his work at Dropsuit and SolarWinds MSP to crafting go-to-market strategies, Jamie's insights are pure gold for anyone in cloud tech and IT services.
We had some time at the airport together, and I just said, what drives you? And he's just like, money, immediately. I want the Rolex, I want the car, I want the house, I want all that stuff. And I'm like, what do you think you need to get you there?
What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self that is looking at a career in sales right now?
Stop being so emotional.
And how can you overcome that? We were talking before we sat down here about how in software world, in SaaS sales, and I would say probably doubled down and amplified and magnified in Australia, doing the right thing and being a good person is so incredibly important. And if you don't, then you burn yourself, right?
Yes.
You've been incredibly successful in your career. You've been in Australia for 15 years. You've had multiple leadership roles and have still got a strong reputation in the market. What do you think that you have done from your leadership perspective that have allowed you to have the success that you've had, that have allowed you to keep growing and be a desired leader in the region?
To come back to a guy who you and I both have been mentored by Mike Cullen, one of the things he said to me really early on in my career is no matter how you have to think about it, and as much as this might sound terrible, but it is kind of true, it's the customer first, the company second, and you third. And the alignment to that is if the customer's happy, then generally your employees and staff and company are happy, they're buying, they're happy, there's good reviews. So then that impacts you as an individual leader as well. If those two things are in check and you're growing and your staff's happy and everybody's making their bread, making their money as a salesperson, then ultimately you should be happy as a sales leader. So I think those core things and always keeping those in check is super paramount. It's always the customer first. And I think I've always, in my whole sales career, I realized that we need those individuals to pay for our food on the table and take care of the things that we need to take care of. And if you burn that bridge early, you're in a really bad situation. Secondary is making sure your staff is taken care of, right? And I can't say that I've always done that, you know what I mean? There's been different priorities that have taken, but I think at the forefront, it's always been making sure that people are good, they're happy, you're doing regular check-ins, you're making sure that, there's alignment. You have to read, we're in sales, you have to read how people are feeling. You can tell when someone's a bit off, and maybe when it's a personal conversation or there's something personal going on. You need to be in touch with those things in order to make sure that they feel valued in the organization. And then I think the rest takes care of itself. I really love what I do. I love being in sales. I still love the hunt. And being a part of the acquisitions, and I've had a really colorful career in the past 15 years in Australia, and I still think that it's a new challenge every day. So to share that with new individuals coming up is really important.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that, customer, company, individual, because I took that into Datto when I went to Datto, and there was at times when I saw sales reps potentially had things around the wrong sort of way. And
yes. It's easy to get those three things messed up.
It is. And part of it is education and coachability, and you need to help to take people on that journey of understanding the bigger picture. But yeah, if someone is too focused on hitting their commission check, then actually can be detrimental to everyone.
We were those guys. I mean, I think earlier in your career, and that's another thing. And I've learned so much from Mike, and I think that's a big part of where I've gone, and Frank and some of the guys that that I know that we've been in the industry. And but I think when you're an individual contributor, it's 75% you, 25% company. When you become a manager, it's 50-50. And then when you become a C-level or above, it's 75 company, 25 you. Like, you have to make a lot of difficult decisions. You have to do a lot of difficult things that you don't necessarily like, that impact staff, that impact customers. And unfortunately, you're the messenger for those things.
Yeah.
So you can't, you've got to be able to take the good and the bad with sales leadership specifically.
Can you think back to any times when you've witnessed firsthand your team muddling the order of those events up and putting themselves first? And like, how do you handle that conversation? And tell us about a sort of success or failure in your own career when you've been coaching someone around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many times I can't really count, and that's the crazy thing about being a leader. I think I think when you're talking to someone who what a crazy thing is a large majority of it comes down to how well they're doing, right? And I hate to say that, but someone who's arrogant or potentially not, but is killing their sales number and doing all the right things in terms of the target, you maybe take a little bit less pressure on them. But I think there's always got to be a level set at any point or consistently through someone's tenure in your company, right? So there's got to be like a recheck of what the goals are. What are they looking to do? They want to become a sales manager. Do they just want to write the lights out and make as much commission money as possible so that they can pay for that new car or the Rolex or whatever they want, and you've got to understand how they fit into the company and how you fit into them hitting those goals and keeping that level set. I think that is super important.
I want to touch on that point where you said that if someone's maybe a little bit arrogant or they're a bit of a pain in the backside, like they get a little bit of grace if they're hitting their numbers. Yeah. What's the tipping point between them being too much of a dickhead? And the no dickhead policy for when their pain is actually outweighing the revenue that they're overachieving with.
I think as soon as it impacts someone else within the team, I think that is an immediate no, and that's an immediate verbal warning. And then that's you've crossed the line here. Yeah. It's time to go over. As soon as that individual contributor starts to impact other people's roles within the organizations or customers or other departments. I had that. I hired a girl from England, and I think she was 3 weeks with the company and just tore a strip off of someone in finance, the finance department, right? And I had a lot of time for her, but the finance department had called me in Australia and told me what she had did. And she was still within her probation. And I went in and I addressed it immediately. I'm like, you can't talk to people the way she was frustrated with a billing or some kind of the way the payment went through or something like that, or how long it was taking. It was something so non-issue, but she had just decided to pull a rank that she didn't have. And I immediately checked her very clearly. I've got the director of the finance department contacting me to talk about a problem with you. There's one of two ways this is going to go, and you're not going to like both of them. So get yourself in check or, understand. And I'm like, and then clearly from there, I said, if you have a problem, I'm your manager. Like, I'm your leader. I'm the one you have to report to. So if you have a problem with someone else or someone else in the department, talk to me first and let's get to the bottom of it then.
Did that work?
It did, yes. Yeah. Immediately changed the whole way the whole perspective. Made it a lot harder on me because every other day it was something else. But, that again was something I could manage as long as she wasn't affecting other employees in the organization or customers or, that's super important.
Yeah. Something else I've noticed about your career, certainly since I've known you, is the number of liquidity events that you've been through. Yeah. How many have you been through in the last 15 years?
In the last 15, I've been through, I guess, 4 significant ones. Yeah.
So Enable
to SolarWinds. Yeah. SolarWinds going private. SolarWinds then going public again in 2018. Yeah. And then more recently, DropSuite being acquired by Ninja. So that deal's not finalized yet, so we can't talk too much about that today. But that one's coming up, I think, in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly exciting, but I've been through a couple of those myself. And as a junior rep within an organization, like on one hand, it's exciting. On the other hand, it's pretty challenging, right? Because there's so much internal change and pressure and different mandates coming at you. What was your experience in going through that? And have you changed has your ability to handle that change matured? And how do you handle that change? Because a lot of people are, and again, we talked before we sat down, it's a lot easier to come into a change organization than to change in an organization.
Agreed.
So how have you been successful with that?
The first one in 2013, 2012, when SolarWinds acquired Enable. What was really good about that acquisition is they were buying us because they're a long-winded sales process, and we were very short. Our sales process, I mean, you can remember it was 15 to 30 days from lead gen to close. And they didn't really know much about our business, so they really virtually left us untouched. I mean, we still had the same direct reports. We still had all the same things. So that was a really good first acquisition for us. I think, you and I went through that together, and I think you would agree that was in general a good acquisition because we got pretty much left alone. I'd say a bad one was when we acquired LogicNow, which was GFI formerly, which was our largest competitor. The two businesses on paper were virtually the same. And that one got announced. I was on a plane back to Canada, and it got announced at 6:30 in the morning, and I was literally going to jump on a plane 2 hours later. And so, I had my team contacting me. What does this mean for me? And the fear, uncertainty, and doubt was kicking in, and I was just getting on a 24-hour flight back home. So I didn't even know what was going on to a level. So I think those experiences really, having different experiences allows you to know that there's no control over like where you're going to go. Like decisions get made in these acquisitions, but I think it gives anybody who's going through it or is potentially going to go through it, the advice I'd give is like dig in. Know your data, know your metrics, know your company, know your worth within your business, and really focus in on those things. Because at the end of the day, whatever decision is made is out of your hands in a large majority of cases, but make sure you don't doubt not being included in that next move or something else. Make sure that you shine in those parts of change.
So you talked about some good things around knowing your data, your numbers, your worth, etc. How does one, as an individual contributor or a junior person within a business, effectively communicate that so that they can effectively poise themselves as a valuable member of the team? Yeah,
I think like early for me in my career, I said yes 40 times more than I said no. Even though I didn't like it, it was like I didn't personally like what I was being asked to do. I would put my hand up and do it. So it gave me exposure to a large majority of other parts of the department, and it gave me exposure to people that could make decisions. So I think like that's important to the level of not being annoying, by the way. If you are a targeted rep, which most of us are, then you need to be doing everything you can to hit those targets consistently. And if you're not, you need to do a serious SWOT analysis on yourself and understand where your problems are. Can you fix those problems individually, or do you need help from me or someone else on the team to get you to that level? And I think the bigger problem I see with younger people is they know these things, but they don't take action on them. And I think if I can give one level of advice, take action on weakness. Like it's totally okay to be like, I don't know this, or put your hand up and say, I'm not good at this. How can I get better? That's where I think leaders thrive. Yeah. But if you don't ask, you don't get really.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been a huge amount of change and redundancies, and they're still going on at the moment, which is frustrating. I'm hoping that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I do believe that there is. But something which we talked about was make yourself indispensable within the organization. And whilst I would say no one's indispensable, everyone is a number to a certain extent. If you can help to relieve workload, pain, frustration from peers, from your manager, by again doing things that make their lives easier, then that's going to elevate you kind of one step
100%.
Yeah.
That you couldn't have articulated or shortened it up
Yeah.
more. That's really, you know, where, and I get afforded a lot being in Australia. I get afforded a lot of luxury to make decisions on the fly and deal with things and basically run it as my own business. So, and I've only done that because I've earned that right.
Yeah.
You know, doing things before I'm being asked to do them, or just running it responsibly, effectively.
Yeah. Having that go get it.
That's
just,
it.
Just continually don't see it. Don't be that person that's not my job. I'm not going to do it sort of mentality.
That is the worst thing you can be in today's world. I honestly, I think I owe so much of it of my success to work ethic.
You just raised something that that line that you hate. That's not my job, and I share that sentiment as well. I want to transition to hiring. You've hired a lot of salespeople over the years, and I've got kind of both sides of the question. When you're going through an interview process, what is something that someone will say in an interview that will be an immediate red flag and give you the ick straight away?
One that I come back to a large majority of time is the money thing. I hate that to be it, but you know, a lot of people feel entitled that they should get more because they have a master's degree or they've spent X amount of time in a customer service role, but they've never really done sales. And they make that very aware very quickly. Oh, I thought it was more, or can I negotiate more? That's an immediate, red flag to me.
And is that a red flag at the final stage as well, or even early on?
I've had people come in in the first interview, and offer what the pay. When you disclose the pay packet, you can tell that they're not happy with it or whatever the case is. How
would you encourage people to have that conversation? Because it's probably good that you qualify them out really soon if there's a misalignment.
Correct.
At the same time, I'm with you. If someone's coming in and talking about money on the first date, then that's a bit of a problem for me as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen candidates get pushed out straight away for that reason.
It depends on the role too.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I mean, I think, at this point in my career, commanding a salary is a relevant conversation, or equity in the company, or something along those lines to get you to where you are. But I mean, if you're just starting out and you've never had a tech sales role, we're not talking about money. You're going to take what you can get because you want the job. I think I like a level of arrogance. I mean, there's not really too much that sets me off. It's just really not being engaging, one-word answers. Another thing that doesn't really excite me a lot or turns me off if someone doesn't do their research on the business. That drives me nuts, you know? So if I get into an interview with someone and I ask them, what do you know about DropSuite? And they're kind of piecing together or reading the website while they're on it. That to me is immediate. You don't even care enough about, you knew you had this interview for a week. You didn't care enough to actually do some research, watch some YouTube videos, do something to understand what kind of company you're going to work for. Well, that kind of gives me some understanding of what kind of employee you're going to be when I hire you. So usually that is at bottom of the pile or garbage resume right immediately.
I was talking about this very same thing
It's
last
such an
week.
easy thing to do, right?
Yeah, totally. If you have not got the time to look at what we do before we have a conversation, I don't have the time to take this conversation any further.
Even a mission statement or a value proposition, at the very least, if someone came out and just spit the mission statement out to me immediately and they memorized it, that to me is okay, you're in.
Yeah.
But when it's piecing it, I think you guys kind of do this or you kind of do that, or I'm blown away by the fact that they obviously are just hiring mass, they've applied to 50 positions and they don't kind of care what they get. That to me is definitely something.
And on the flip side of that, what are the things in an interview process that you're looking for that you can tell someone is a really high quality candidate?
The first thing I do is give a good alignment of the company, what we're looking for in the individual to level set with them to understand, is this the job they want? The second thing is really just background. So we face these kinds of situations in this company on a regular basis. These are some of the parts of your job that you're not going to like, cold calling people and getting told no, whatever the case is. And then the third thing is I generally get them to pitch me the company on a voicemail. So I get them to call me. I still do that today. I've done it for years, but basically a why they should get the job in by the time a voicemail ends, right? So if those three things like fall in alignment, I think that's where I'm good. So I don't know really how to articulate that into the 3 bullet points.
So that's a sales bit of an interview process. So initially what you do is you frame it and saying like you're almost level setting and just explaining what you do. This is what we do. Is that your alignment? And are you comfortable that we should progress the interview moving forward? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like the first one, level set, and then a little bit of a conversation around that.
I think that's really interesting. It's almost a question in itself. Like, what's your interview process? But even as we look, if we go through that process, what you're looking for is like, how do you tell if someone is a good fit? As once you've explained what they do, and you do that to me, I'm like, oh yeah, Jamie, that sounds really good. That's exactly what I'm after.
Okay.
Like, what is it that you're looking for in terms of what they say or how they respond, or like, is it IQ, EQ as an example? And I'll give you an example. There's a hiring manager we're working with at the moment, and he says, I'd love to learn a little bit about who you are and what you do. Let me go first. My name's X, and I've been in Australia for 20 years. I've got 2 daughters, and I'm passionate about football. As an example, he goes, tell me a bit about yourself. And he says, if they respond and they say, well, this is it. I've been in cybersecurity for 10 years and I'm really passionate about a new business. He goes, they've missed the point. They don't have that emotional intelligence piece.
Right.
So he goes, I'm looking for someone with like emotional intelligence that can build rapport. I want to see drive. I want to see passion. I want to see that they're intelligent so that they can learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Do you look for some of those sort of characteristics? Like, how are you, if everyone goes, yeah, that's the job I'm after, how do you then qualify, how do you grade someone that this is someone that is a high quality rep, or this is someone in my A class and my B and my C?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much about feel, because I know the roles, but I mean, I'd take it to the most recent. I've just recently hired an SDR, and we went through a first round, and I shortlisted, I think, 2 candidates. One was from the industry, and just very monotone. Kind of came across as a little bit arrogant. I've been there, done that. Those people I find are a lot harder to kind of train in a new role, especially if they have that attitude. The younger one was straight out of school, didn't have a job outside of like a retail shop. And so, but what was really good about him is he had taken the time to research the company. He had a really good personality about him. You could tell he could work with customers. He was, customer facing. And that is like the first crux of what we do, because we're always in front of customers and dealing with issues. If they can do that at the first level, I think that is what I'm looking for. I am looking for emotional intelligence. I'm looking for them to understand how to hit a goal, hit a target. But we ended up coming down to an individual who was in car and property sales before. Very young kid. He's 24, so he's had some entry level jobs in there, and just like it was his energy over the interview.
Yeah.
I threw him with I hit
What does
him,
energy mean to you?
like the ability to carry a conversation. It's not a one-sided interview. I think like that old school interview mentality is just, it's so boring. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, it's not about that. It's about, the ability to like, do I want to work with this? An interview is validation, right? You're wondering, do I want to work with this guy? Can he do the job? And do they want to work with me? I mean, like, we forget that sometimes as hiring managers, don't we? Like, we automatically are looking, we have the pressure of filling this role, and we just feel that way. But ultimately, does that person want to work with me as the individual? So I think there's a lot of back and forth that needs to happen there. And if that ultimately goes well, my first interviews are 15 minutes, if not less.
Yeah,
They're very
wow.
short,
Okay.
right?
And it's those 3 things. It's, do they want to work with me? Do I want to work with them? And do I think they can do the job? And
Correct.
If I get those three things, then let's go through a bit more diligence.
If I tick those three things, then I'm okay to send it to my next to the second and then third round, and then ultimately make that decision at the end.
Awesome.
It's very quick for me because your resume tells me what you've done, so I don't really need to pour over that for 15 minutes. My goal is to understand: can we do this together? And I'm going to give you all the bad parts about this job, and I'm going to tell you everything you're going to be doing every day, and it's probably going to suck if you're an SDR, or if you've never done those roles before, and if you're still happy at the end of that, and you still show that eagerness to want to come, then 100% that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the way. Yeah, do I want to work with you? Do you want to work with me? Are we connected? Are we compatible? Do I like your energy? Do you like mine? And
maybe it's a salesperson to me. I mean, HR kind of hates me for it, right? Because they wanted me to get right down to the emotional side. And maybe it's a salesperson to me, but it's all about qualifying out. I've got 100 people applying for this job. I need to weed out. And unfortunately, as much as I'm saying this, it could come down to a feeling or a vibe you get, or just something in your gut that tells you this isn't the right move. And largely my gut's been pretty good. So I trust it a large majority of the time.
When we look at growth in a business, high scale, fast growth business, and especially a small business, the people that you get into the business are critical to your success. If you get someone that is not able to come to execute when you bring them in, that can really hold you back. What do you do, or what does the organization, or what's your philosophy of how you get high quality people into the business?
Ooh, that's a really big question. I would say, I think it's got to be right fit, right time. A lot of time. I think a lot of it is just coming down. I think you need to know what your next position is, or what you're looking out of that role. High growth businesses, small, I'm in kind of one right now. We're only 160 plus staff, right? So it's quite small. So the hires I make can't be hidden, right? They need to come in. They need to come in relatively quick and make impact. I think laying out, if I hire you, this is where we plan to be in the next 12 months. Laying out that structure and having that plan in place in your head is really going to impact how they're going to start and where you're going to be, and making sure that they're coming along with you on that journey, right? Like, this is why I'm hiring for this role, and this is why I think you're going to be good for it. But I need you to do these things to put us in position for in 3 months or 6 months time to maybe promote you, or put you in this position, and allow them to come on that journey with you. Because
so you're creating a vision.
100%.
So this is our vision. This is who we are, what we stand for, where we're going.
These are our weaknesses.
Yeah.
This is where we're not good, and this is why we're hiring for this role. And making sure that that's clear, and making sure that they understand their place in the organization.
So giving them a home. So they've got a sense of belonging.
A foundation first, and then building that path forward with them. I talked to this young kid I've just hired. I brought him with me to Melbourne and Sydney on a recent road show, and we had some time at the airport together. And I just said, what drives you? And he's just like, money, immediately. I want the Rolex, I want the car, I want the house, I want all that stuff. And I'm like, what? The first question I asked him is, what do you think you need to get you there? And he couldn't really answer it or articulate it in a way that made sense, right? So, I talked to him then about where I've come from, and the things that have instilled in me to allow me to be successful. And, now he's kind of coming on that journey with me. He understands that he's got a place. He understands that he has to hit these goals to get where he needs to be.
That's the coaching element, and probably gives you fulfillment that you can help to get him there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a big thing. If you have people that on your team that don't like working for you, then you're not going to get anywhere together. And it comes back to our original point, a lot of arrogance comes from that. Sales reps can be very I know more than the next person, or whatever the case is. That level set is always important, I think, consistently throughout someone's career.
I want to change the topic slightly, away from kind of motivating salespeople, etc. And I want to make an assumption. Let's just say that you've hired a top performer. You got an A player that's come in. He's sold on the vision. What are the other GTM go-to-market components that a business needs to build as part of their foundation in order to ensure that that person is set up for success?
Are we talking about like a siloed office, like Australia, or?
Either. It could be a siloed office like Australia. It could be an Australian business that's a startup scale up. They're building their foundational sales team. And just a little bit of context. I've been working with a lot of scale up companies in the services world, in the SaaS world, and there's a lot of pressure on an individual first hire that this is my player. He better be an A player and he better deliver. And more often than not, they don't.
Correct.
And a lot of the time, I'm not going to give a percentage, but it's a marriage, right? The salesperson needs to come to the table. The business needs to come to the table with what I call a foundation, like a GTM foundation. Some ingredients, some leads, perhaps, a sales process.
Oh, yeah.
perhaps.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. So yeah, I think I'm kind of going through that a little. I've gone through that in the past 3 years. And what I would call an A player, we're the fastest growing region 2 years in a row, and top percentage growth region 2 years in a row. And, that is probably largely because I was hired as with the title, but more of an individual contributor. I think the first thing that, if I can just talk from personal experience and then expand that down, is the first thing I did is learned everything about the company I could and understand where the cracks were and understand what I needed from a resource perspective. Then I went and asked for those things luckily I had a good relationship with the CEO. So I asked things directly top down. Usually if you ask the top person first, you're going to get better shot if you have a good relationship. So I think when you hire that A player in your market, it does need to be a give and take. Again, coming to that level set meeting or that quarterly check-in, what are the things that are really bothering you, or what things could we expedite, make faster? What are the things that we could work with you on to help accelerate your growth an extra 10, 20%? If they don't have the answers, then, you need to be cautious of like allowing them to make that decision, especially if they're the A player, and understand that a little bit more, maybe what they're getting out of it. But it also, I think, translates down to like firm targets and understanding of like, what the expectations are, and making sure that they can manage those first before they start thinking about everything else in the business.
So targets, KPIs, commission plan.
Correct. Those need to be solid. I mean, like they can't be willy-nilly or like, oh, if you hit your number at 70%, like that's okay. Like if you're going to be wishy-washy on that stuff and don't set those realistic targets and goals, then unfortunately, like the business is going to fall out, and eventually that A player will lose faith in you because their numbers will start to turn the other way because, well, he doesn't reprimand me if I don't hit my number in this month, or he doesn't give me flack if I miss these things.
There's two things I picked up in that. One is having a fair comp plan. The other one is having a management rhythm to make sure that you're inspecting what you expect with that person.
Yeah, I mean, we do quarterly check-ins, and there's like pretty much a full SWOT quarter on quarter.
And this is with headquarters?
Yeah, no, this is with your direct reports, and then with my direct reports as well.
Just on a quarterly basis?
Quarterly basis, yeah.
The one-to-ones as well?
Yeah.
On a weekly basis? Or
one-to-ones are weekly with my direct reports.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Boss.
Like, what is your cadence?
Yeah, so I do one-to-ones beginning of the week because I think it's the most crucial time to impact a week. If you're doing a one-to-one on a Friday, it's okay, but I think a lot of people are still in the crux of, they haven't had that mind clear of Saturday, Sunday, depending on what your work schedule is. So I usually like to do mine Monday immediately or Tuesday morning, but not past Tuesday afternoon. Why? Because time's crucial, right? If we found that we got 30% less leads from marketing last week, well, someone needs to get on the phone and pick up the slack on those extra 30. We need to go call some lists or do some things to get that momentum back up, because I know my metrics, and I know if that bottom falls out in week 2, we're probably not going to hit the number. So it's really good for you to understand what happened last week, what went off, what was the activity, what maybe didn't go so well, and how can we change those things in the next week. And then your monthlies, I don't do monthlies, I do quarterlies, because that's the way targets are run. And then your quarterlies are taking all of those small one-to-one meetings and basically saying, hey, this has been a consistent issue. What are the things we can do to fix that? Or this is really good. How do we continue to do more of that? And that's really the cadence that I follow. And it's worked extremely well for me. That doesn't go to mention that I'm on the phone with these guys 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day in terms of little stuff that needs to happen. But those times of focus where you're just talking about them and their role and what their output is and what their capability is
what are the top, you talked about metrics in terms of marketing leads. What are the top 3, 4, 5 metrics that you have got just off the tip of your tongue in terms of what you're looking for on a monthly or weekly basis, either with your, I'm going to say for the business, as a regional leader, marketing, sales, success, support, whatever that may be. What are your go-to metrics to litmus test how you're doing?
Close ratio.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's 2 key metrics I always focus on. It's what's our show up ratio of what, like, if we did a marketing campaign, how many people showed up and actually interacted with that campaign and moved into the sales process. So if we did, if we hit 1,500 people, but 10 showed up, like that's not really good ratio. Maybe we don't do that again, or we tweak the marketing or we tweak the message. And then once they're in the sales process is like, what is our close ratio on conversion to sale? And what's that time frame? The more we can enhance that and whittle that down, the better we get in understanding what our speed bumps are or what our pitfalls are going to be. So that's the first metric a lot of the times. And then the other side is growing trends with existing customers and understanding, when they're buying licenses, how regularly they're buying licenses, and what can we do to accelerate that. In our world, there's so many SaaS products, right? And like, we have 5 or 6 competitors to every solution that's out there, whether it's backup or virus or whatever it is, that it could just be that they have got 2 different products doing the same thing, and they didn't know that you could do this, so they've not launched it in. So you really want to keep in key metrics on your existing customer growth, churn rate, and then the one I find most important.
Would that be like a white space analysis type report?
Yeah, I do heat mapping. So it's like basically, kind of nerdy, but I've got my wife to create me this. She's a financial analyst, so she does all the guru Excel stuff. And I've got a heat map that I basically can plug in the data, and it gives me an understanding of, where drops or where hits have been, so that we can impact a time of like immediate, right? If a customer deploys 300 seats, you should be on the phone with that person immediately. Like, and saying, hey, what happened? What can we do to get another one of these in 3 months or whatever the case is? Or adversely, if a customer churns, same thing.
I just want to go back and ask you the question again and just say there's three key metrics that I hold close to my heart, or there's 3 key metrics that I inspect every single week.
Okay.
And that'll be a cool...
Okay.
Like there's 3 key sales metrics or whatever that is.
Okay. So there's 3 key sales metrics that I like hold dear to my heart. How many leads have come in? Obviously, do we have enough people to talk to? What our current growth rate is with existing customers and churn. Churn is something you need to get on top of immediately if you see it happening. And then like the third one is close ratio. Understanding, how well we're doing with the people that are in the pipe to get them to the ultimate goal of getting them on board with our solution.
Awesome. And then if we peel that back, that's the business layer in terms of how the overall sales marketing engine's going, those 3 pillars or those 3 levers. If we look at a rep and you want to understand like the activity of a rep, do you go down at that granular level to understand like number of meetings or
100%?
Okay.
Yeah. So the great thing about AI is like it is giving us this stuff in real time. Stuff I had to like go through excruciating pain, and you would remember this, like Excel sheets and call logs, and we run everything out of Outreach, and it just gives you those metrics like bang right on a clear dashboard. So I don't even have to look at it. I can see how the VoIP call is through Outreach, so I can see exactly how many times that individual's picked up the phone. I can see how many times they've touched, for how long they've been on the phone, and then ultimately what's that resulted in terms of bookings and completed meetings. It's all good if you book 30 meetings, but if they don't show up, you're talking to nobody.
So we talked a bit about marketing and sales and leads, and that's obviously close to your heart, I can see. Yeah. What is your belief, philosophy, expectation of who drives leads for the sales team, marketing versus sales, and what's that ideal ratio that you should be thinking
about? One's going to get me in a lot of trouble. I grew up in a sales-led lead system. So cold calling and just, getting out in front of it and driving the leads. We didn't have a really good marketing engine at the first company I was with, and therefore it fell on sales to make our number. And the vibe was always, if you can't hit your number on your own, then you shouldn't be blaming anybody else. Now that's changed massively. We've got so much more accessibility to marketing and the social media and things like this that I think it's got to be a 50-50 between marketing and sales to a large majority, depending on what kind of model you're running or what kind of product you're selling. But I believe in SaaS specifically, it's got to be a 50-50.
Yeah.
You've got to be bringing your own leads from a sales perspective, but you got to count on marketing to get you that extra little bit month on month, quarter on quarter.
Yeah, I agree. And you touch on outreach as a tool. When you look at the solutions that you're using from an enablement perspective or just tools within your business, whether it's AI or non-AI, what is your favorite tool or tools that you look to today?
I mean, we just got outreach. So and honestly, this 24-year-old kid who I've just hired knows more about it now than I do. And I find that incredible. That lets me know that I've hired the right person. But Gong has been a really good one.
Okay.
Gong is, it's an AI technology that you just hook into a Microsoft meeting, and it basically condenses all the asks so that you can, anything you've said you're going to do, you do. It puts all that in Salesforce. It puts all the metrics in for you.
It puts it all in for you automatically.
Yeah. Once you link it up to Salesforce, you don't have to worry about it. So I can literally get off a call and the calls notes of that call are put in, the opportunities put in. I've got to do some small changes, minor tweakings, but it's done that. And it's recorded the whole call. So if the customer then goes, hey, I need a copy of this, you can just send them a link. It expires in 30 days and it's all done. That tool set, I was skeptical at first, but I've come to realize it is awesome, especially when you're like, oh, what did he say when, when he asked this question, or what did he say at this point? You can literally go back to that specific
Or he says,
snippet.
I never said that. Hang on a second.
Yeah. Or he says that. Yeah. Or that's the
did.
other worst fit. But yeah, Gong has been a really good one.
Okay.
I'm not paid for that, but it's just been one that I didn't think was going to be that great. It was just transformed the way I've looked at the business.
Amazing. And just as we begin to come to a close, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self that is looking at a career in sales right now?
Stop being so emotional. I struggled a lot early in my career with emotion and being able to temper that and realize, like, overthinking things that were never going to happen, right? Like just getting in your own head about like everything. Oh, I'm going to get fired, or this is going to happen, or this is going to happen. And it never does, or it never happens the way you think it's going to happen in the 50 ways. But yeah, it would probably be the emotional side of it, I think.
And how can you overcome that?
I started to really heavily read books. So mentorship was one way, like someone that you can be yourself with. So my old boss, Frank, who you'd know, when I get on the phone with him, I would say, this is a Jamie Frank conversation. Or if it was a business conversation, it's like, it's a business conversation. So he could understand what side of emotion I'm playing on. And that really helped me out because I was able to kind of channel through that. But then I did a lot of, reading Ryan Holiday's Stoic, reading. I've done a lot of reading in emotional intelligence and realizing that 5 minutes of getting that news that you think is the worst thing in the world, your actions in that 5 minutes will dictate what's going to happen, at the end of the day. So it's better for you to just shut up, take it in, take a night to think about it, take 2 days, whatever the case is, and just worry. My problem when I was young is I reacted immediately. I heard news I didn't like, and I just threw a fit.
I still do that today.
Yeah.
I still do that today, and I try. I go, I'm going to sit on this, and the next day I look at it and go, you know what, it's done. I don't even bother about this.
I've written so many emails that I've deleted and left in drafts that I have just drafts and drafts. And then I wake up the next morning, I'm like, you know what?
It's not worth it.
Whatever. It's not worth it. I'm not going to go. So if it was 16-year-old me, it's just stop being so emotional. Just get over it, get on with it, and keep going forward.
Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed it. If anyone's listening wants to get in touch with you or learn a bit more about Dropsuite, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can contact me on LinkedIn, Jamie Deveaux. I've got a unique name, French Canadian, so you can contact me there, or obviously through email, jamie@dropsuite.com. I'm pretty active in media, so if there's something you need, I'm more than happy to help out where I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great
Cheers.
to chat.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Appreciate it, James.